Standard network rate message or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Lisa, you got in touch with me and you flagged this survey because you were concerned as a parent that your child had been given this to fill out.
Yeah, I mean, my daughter came home from school. She was very confused. She was asking why somebody would want to hurt themselves if they were feeling sad or worried about something. So that led to a conversation that we had, and I actually phoned the school and asked them to send me the survey, which with a lot of pushing, they eventually did send me the survey. And when I read through it, I was just completely shocked at the content. The survey says when I'm feeling worried that maybe I should try cutting or harming myself, because it's in the survey, so that must be an option. I've tried everything else, so why not try this?
It is astonishing that some of these are young children who are perhaps being introduced to these, these abuses for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a list of 17 different types of drugs, some of which I've actually never heard of myself. I mean, the wording on here is, have you ever got high from taking drugs? I mean...
And we know that some of these behaviours, self-harm, gender dysphoria, taking drugs, are psychologically contagious. Children do them because they see other children do them, or they find out about them from the internet or from surveys like this. So the idea that this is just information gathering and won't go any further than that is ridiculous. There was a similar survey in Scotland, I think, about 3 years ago, where children the same age, 11, 12, 13, were asked about their sex lives. How many times have you had sex in the last year? How did you have sex? Did you use contraception? Totally normalising underage sex. So the idea that children are just mini adults and we can confront them with all the same kind of ideas and dilemmas that adults have to face is just ridiculous.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, it's 11 o'clock, which means it's time for tomorrow's newspapers tonight. Join us over the next hour to find out about public anger growing at Keir Starmer's handling of the Southport stabbings. Means that Reform are now topping the polls. And Donald Trump is going to release secret files. Sorry, it's not the Epstein client list this time, but it is the JFK assassination files. Was Oliver Stone right? Find out tonight. And we've got the number of children who think they're different genders has increased 50 times. It's definitely not a fad, though. All those kids just develop gender dysphoria on their own with no outside influence from people with blue hair. I'm Leo Kearse, and tonight's comedians are Jonathan Cogan and Steve N. Allen. There they are over there, adjusting their clothes in a suspicious manner. This is Headliners. But before tomorrow's news, let's go to tonight's headlines with Sophia Hill.
Leo, thank you. Your top story. Storm Eowyn is sweeping across the UK, bringing record-breaking winds and severe weather conditions. 1 in 5 flights from airports in the UK and Ireland have been cancelled today, and millions of people have been urged to stay home. Over 4 million people across Northern Ireland and Scotland received emergency alerts from the Met Office last night with guidance on how to stay safe. More than 240,000 homes and businesses are without power in Northern Ireland, and a wind speed of 114 miles per hour brought by the storm has been recorded in Ireland. The the fastest since records began. 20,000 Scottish Power customers across the centre and south of the country are without electricity, and a red danger to life warning for wind has been extended in Scotland, where more than 35,000 properties have lost power. Local authorities had warned all commuters to avoid travel at all costs. And the Southport child killer will likely die behind bars after murdering 3 girls at a dance class, but his 52-year sentence has sparked for calls for law changes. Axel Rudekabana received one of the highest minimum custody terms on record for the attack in Southport in July last year. Alice de Silva Aguirre, BB King and Elsie Dot Stankham were all killed, and harrowing details of the attack were heard at Liverpool Crown Court yesterday. However, Southport's Labour MP Patrick Hurley said the sentence was not severe enough, and he asked the Attorney-General to review it as unduly lenient. Due to Rudekabana's age at the time of the attack, he cannot legally receive a whole-life order. The head of the UK's largest police force has welcomed a review of contempt of court laws and said it would be great if more information in cases could be shared at an earlier stage. Scotland's first ever visitor levy for overnight stays has been approved by councillors in Edinburgh. Visitors staying in the city will have to pay a 5% fee per night, capped at 7 nights, which is expected to raise up to £50 million a year for the local authority. The charge will be applied on bookings made after the 1st of May this year for accommodation stays starting in July 2026. 2 giant pandas have made their public debut at the Smithsonian National Zoo in Washington, D.C. A zoo volunteer says Bao Li, a male whose name translates to active and vital power, and King Bao, a female whose name means green and treasure, have already won the hearts of our staff and volunteers. The pandas, both 3-year-olds, make their much welcome return after a 15-month absence. Now, let me entertain you with this. Pop star Robbie Williams has equalled the Beatles' record for the most UK #1 albums.
I got, you got, we got everybody. I got the gift, gonna stick it in the goal. It's time to move your body.
Williams' latest release, Better Man, the soundtrack to his biopic film, has become his 15th record to top the official album charts. To celebrate matching one of the most influential bands of all time, the singer posted on social media wearing a T-shirt featuring the name of the Beatles members alongside his own and thanked his fans for supporting the album and the movie. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. That's it from me today, but now it's time for Headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome to Headliners. Before we dig into the papers, let's have a look at tomorrow's front pages. The Guardian has Southport killer, police in fight to access web history. The Telegraph has Prime Minister rejects whole life term over Southport. And the Daily Mail has Labour taxes leave firms in dire situation. Now let's start with the Guardian, Steve. So the police are fighting to access the web history of the Southport attacker. And incredibly, it looks like it could take years for them to get access to his web history.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? It's because you need to go to Google or to Microsoft to get this information. There's a special way, a special prosecution thing which can take ages. Surely there's some sort of thing. Look, I get it. Not everyone wants their social media history or whatever, their search history. I keep my search history pretty well guarded. But in a case like this, when you should be able to say to Microsoft, oh, look what this guy did. Pleaded guilty to. So there's nothing controversial here. Let's see his search history. Surely there's a case to be made where they go, oh, yeah, here it is. Yeah. Rather than years worth of... I mean, this is a waste of time as well, because now there'll be reviews to try and look at how he managed to radicalise himself, whatever the correct phrase would be, and you've got 2 tech giants holding all the power. This is not just about the fact that it's in America, the tech giants. Yeah. This is the problem. These monopolies of information and data hold all the power, and we can ask, and then they can just fob us off for a couple of decades.
I mean, I can understand why there'd be, legal processes you have to step through before you get access to this data. But I mean, this is something that there's a clear public interest in us knowing. So I mean, surely Microsoft and Google and anyone else who can help access the browsing history of this monster should step up and provide it as quickly as possible.
I absolutely agree. I think it's the fact that they're an American company. They're not under the same jurisdictions that a UK-based company would be. My other thought is, what could it possibly change, though? I mean, there's going to be absolutely nothing redeeming on there. I mean, and what could there be information-wise that we need? Like, he's obviously just done something completely horrendous for a multitude of reasons. I don't think whatever he's been looking at.
We don't know. I mean, you're saying a multitude of reasons.
Sure.
We don't know if it's a multitude of reasons or if it's a specific reason, as we've seen in similar attacks. And there are hints that, you know, his thinking behind it. So he's previously said Britain deserves a white genocide. Now, you can imagine if a white man had said, you know, the equivalent thing about a different race, people would jump on that and say, well, he's clearly a racist, he's clearly a far-right white supremacist, etc. That seems to be being hushed up here, and his reading material is very suspicious. It's all about, you know, white settler colonials, you know, doing terrible things in Africa and things like that. You know, the sort of thing that could, you know, it's either the reading material for any university course in 2025, or it's, you know, it's somebody who's got a resentment against white British people.
Yeah, no, fair point, absolutely fair point. Well, then let's hope they release it. But there's a small part of me that's glad it's very difficult to get your internet history read, you know. Not for me.
Yours is fine. I'm sure yours is fine.
Oh, mine's fine. Mine's just sort of anime women.
I don't understand how... if I mention getting a robot vacuum cleaner, I will get adverts for robot vacuum cleaners within 5 seconds.
Because you like the chase.
Why can't we get this information, which is more important to the nation than me getting a robot vacuum cleaner?
Yeah, I mean, not to be too glib, but he deleted his cookies.
Right.
It's literally that. He deleted web history, cleaned the computer, and that's why we can't just take the laptop and hack it. And, you know, apparently it's not even that difficult to get into a Windows machine, but it's all stored in the data center of Google.
Right.
And that's the problem. That's why it's going to take ages.
Right, well, moving on to the Daily Telegraph, we've still got the Southport attacker, and this time Keir Starmer is saying there won't be a whole life term for similar killers.
No, that's right. So PM rejects whole life term over Southport. So Starmer hiding behind the UN despite pressure from peers and victim families. So Keir Starmer has ruled out giving teenage killers in general, like Axel, whole life sentences. So Axel Rudakabana was sentenced a minimum 52 years, but a lot of people have been frustrated that he wasn't just given a complete life sentence, and this is because the heinous crime that he did was committed 10 days or something before he turned 18. Yeah. So there's obviously laws in place that protect children from these kind of sentences, the death penalty in some places and full life in others. So yeah, I mean, it just seems very ridiculous. He was practically 18, for all intents and purposes, 18. Should be life in my opinion.
It's a rounding error, isn't it? That's what you've got there. It's a rounding error. And there are times, especially with cases like this, when the spirit of the law is the thing to follow rather than the letter of the law.
Yeah.
And all it would be is giving the judges the ability to look at things case by case, and that's what judges are for, to have the ability to say, look, when you've got a crime this heinous and someone so close to an arbitrary figure. I mean, being 18 is an arbitrary number, isn't it? It's just to do with lapse of the sun and then the number of them that we've decided makes you an adult. Yeah. You're so darn close to it that you should be able to do something.
And it also seems to be, one of these instances where Keir could actually enact the will of the people and do this. And, we'd be happy for him to do that. And instead, he always seems to do what the people don't want.
He's still chasing that mass murderer vote at the moment.
Well, it seems like to be, and I'm surprised he hasn't smeared any calls for full life sentences as far-right thuggery, which seems to be his default move. There's also a story there about Trump reforms may be a blueprint for the West. I think we're going to talk about Trump's positivity in a moment and how Labour are actually latching onto that positivity, which is great. Is there anything else on the front page you want to talk about?
There's Joanna Lumley saying, I'd like to shoot horrible people.
We'd all like to shoot horrible people. I'd like to shoot some nice people as well. Just,
stop them smiling.
That's why we shouldn't have guns in this country. I've just decided. Hearing you say that makes me think I'm quite happy we don't have them.
You know what? I would feel safer. My family would be safer if we had less government and I had guns.
Your family would be safer.
Yeah, my family would be safer.
I'd be more at risk.
You have a tactical pest
right here.
Why? What have you got planned? Anyway, moving on, we've got the Daily Mail, Steve. What have they got on the front cover?
Well, yeah, great move from the Trump story on the Telegraph, which is Simon Case saying, Trump might be the blueprint for the West. Who else agrees? Rachel Reeves! Did not see that coming. And the plot twist of the day, Labour taxes leave firms... Oh, it's later on. Oh, you're right, it's not on. Rachel Reeves also in this story. But thousands of companies struggling to survive, report warns. So a number of firms terms, on the brink of collapse, but not like the old days collapse when it was just high streets emptying out. This is because of the budget, the growth budget. Let's remember the branding, the growth budget.
It doesn't seem to be growing.
I'm all in favour of a growth budget.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that would be nice. But when the signs are telling you empirically, when you're not seeing growth linked to this budget, tweak. For the love of all that is holy, at least tweak.
But they're referring to the recession rate, the growth, right? That's what they want.
They've grown a recession.
Yeah, the inflation, exactly. They just, it's war is peace, truth is lies.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's the more worrying story. The other one is how Army Barbie kept secrets on traitors to the end.
Yeah.
Don't understand most of those words.
No, I haven't watched any of the traitors. I take it Claudia Winkleman is in it. But this blow to businesses, all we seem to hear from Labour is repeated blows to businesses, as if they were, you know, particularly strong and healthy before the Labour government came in. But there's a 50% rise in businesses in critical financial distress, which is, I mean, that's kind of worrying.
It's very worrying. We're seeing the death of the high street, with many businesses have only just gotten over the setbacks they had during COVID. It's not been a great time, but I'm positive.
Well, it will mean 51% of businesses doing closing down sale. So now might be the time to do some purchases.
So we'll all get new suits for headliners. There's a chance for you to get your first one, Jonathan. Moving on, we've got the Times with Reeves says Britain needs a dose of Trump positivity.
Absolutely.
Labour like Trump now. Yeah. And the Daily Star with JFK, the X-Files. Now, let's look at the Times there, Jonathan.
Yeah, sorry, I jumped in a little bit early because I was so excited, but I've got some Trump positivity now. This is a complete opposite story in tone to the last one we just saw about Reeves. So Reeves is saying Britain needs a dose of Trump positivity. So Britain must learn from President Trump's positivity and be more optimistic if it is to revive the animal spirits, whatever that means, and turn the economy around. This is something Rachel Reeves has said. So she's getting that sort of MAGA optimism. I think she's just basically been mainlining testosterone or something. She's really quite excited. So the Chancellor said, we've got our best days ahead of us, does she? And that people should be...
When Labour get voted out.
Yeah. And people should be shouting from the rooftops about Britain's strength. Well, they did that, and then they locked them up. So maybe they shouldn't do that. I don't know. I think she's trying. You know, she saw Mark Zuckerberg being a Chad now, and now she wants a piece of it. She's done 2 lessons of jiu-jitsu, and now she's excited.
She's
also, can we get the front page back up? Is that possible? Are they listening? Are they? I don't know.
They're going to do it. They're going to do it for you.
They're going to do it. 3, 2, 1. No, they're not. OK, so I'll hold it up. So we have Bill Gates. Oh, there is. Another fun story on here. Bill Gates, Zuck, Musk, autism, and me. He's just also been diagnosed by autism from social media very quickly.
Hack British comedian. Yeah. Like everybody's got autism at the moment, or ADHD or something else.
Absolutely,
I don't want to offend the ADHD people out there. Actually, they won't do anything. They'll get distracted while they're writing a complaint email.
The number of starts of letters you'll get.
Yeah, but this is quite interesting, Steve. Rachel Reeves come forward and saying we need positivity, because this is something that has really been lacking. There have been a few things lacking from the Labour government, but positivity is definitely one of them. Keir Starmer basically came in on a wave of despondency and said, you know, things are going to be horrible, then they'll get worse, and then eventually you're going to die. And that was his message. And it's not the most uplifting message. And I think sometimes messages can be self-fulfilling. If you come in with a positive message, it can uplift the spirits. People go to work a little bit harder. Well, hey, Britain's saved.
Yeah, that was managing expectations, and he managed them so well. He took them outside and shot them, didn't he? But I think we're falling for something here. I don't think this is she's being like Trumpian and saying, oh, this is the kind of nation that can do well. You need it to put it in the order, the chronological order. People are saying your budget's not very good, and she's saying, just cheer up. Come on, stop talking things down. What do you mean they're
It's a last resort, isn't it? I'm worried now. I'm really worried. I was fine before.
Well, she has backtracked on some things like the taxes for non-doms. Which are things that you put on your genitals to stop getting pregnant. No, basically, so many millionaires were leaving the UK, like hundreds of millionaires were leaving the UK, and even Labour realised, even though we're socialists and we hate rich people, they're the ones who pay all the tax. So if we want to do all this, like hand out all these goodies and freebies to the people who vote for us, we need the millionaires to stay around. So she's rolled that back, and now there are hints that sickness benefits will be curbed. So, which is, we've got a huge productivity problem in the UK, because people have worked out that you can get lots of money for going on the sick.
Yeah, they have been talking about that before, though. They're coming up with plans of trying to get people off of long-term sick into work. So, I mean,
but it's always been a carrot before. This is, now they're suggesting that we're going to stop giving you money if you don't get down that coal mine.
as if people these days eat carrots. Have you seen the kind of people we're talking about?
These people need carrots.
So they can see in the mines.
Yeah, that's exactly
There
right.
we go.
Save money on batteries. And finally, we've got the Daily Star. Steve, what have they got?
Trump to reveal Kennedy's secrets amid frenzy over UFO linked to assassination. The actual story is less to do with UFOs, I imagine. It's the fact that we're actually going to get the information.
Yeah.
Trump sat down, he's signed one of his executive orders for JFK, for Robert, and for Martin Luther King. And there's a scene, you can see the clip of him like signing loads of these executive orders, and Trump says like, what's this one? Because he's Peter Lorre from Casablanca for some reason. Hey, Rick! He said, which one am I signing? And the guy handing it to him says, oh, this is the JFK file, sir.
Yeah.
He would sign anything at this rate. There must be some intern who's popped one in the
mortgage application.
It's kind of a pay rise for someone. But it's interesting. During the George H.W. Bush era, there were a law was passed to release some files. Biden signed one setting in place some deadlines, and yet still, loads of files have been released.
Yeah.
No juice. All the juicy has been kept back for some reason. Someone who knows something is having squeaky bum time right now. Yeah, they've got to find out.
Yeah, although, I mean, it was a long time ago. What is it, 60 years ago now? I guess some people in Trump's administration have got a personal interest. I mean, RFK is JFK's nephew.
What about Trump? He's got skin in the game. He just almost got his head exploded on television.
Absolutely.
So he probably wants to set a precedent of investigations being done for assassinated presidents. I think we all know it was Hunter Biden 60 years ago on a grassy knoll. And, what if it was the CIA? Would that change? What if it came out, it was the CIA, that proves to be true? Would that change anything? Would everyone be vindicated?
It's going to stop you getting home alive tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, well, 20 years ago, we could say it would destroy trust in government, but unfortunately, that's been destroyed in the 20 years since. What about the Epstein files? I mean, would you want to see the client list? It's weird that, people say, oh, how can these Pizzagate conspiracies flourish? It's because the Epstein files haven't been released. We've got an elite, potential paedophile ring with lots of famous people in it, political figures.
Elite in the bad sense.
We don't know the names. Why don't they release the names?
I agree, Leo. I completely agree.
And yet the Diddy lists, no, we're all right, we're keeping that to ourselves. I was nowhere near it. Even.
Do you smell of baby oil? Do you know about Operation Midnight Climax?
That sounds like the name of Diddy's parties.
Yeah, well, not far off. It's when the CIA basically spiked a load of Johns in America, people using prostitutes, with acid, and did experiments on them, and then they wouldn't tell because they were in whorehouses.
Right.
And that's a true conspiracy that has come out.
Wow.
Look it up. Well, Operation Midnight Climax.
We are learning here. That's the front page is done. In the next section, Kemi Badenoch goes woke. Starmer. We're not covering that one. And who shot... Oh, we're not covering that one either. We'll see you in a moment. We've got other stories, don't worry.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
An absolute monster. It took Chloe and Sean Ing 90 minutes to reel in this gigantic 8-foot-long monster fish from Chigborough Fisheries in Essex. And upon weighing this enormous marine beast, it was found to have been 7 pounds heavier than the existing British record, a 143-pound catfish caught also in Essex. But as I understand it, you actually went for a Chinese meal when fate struck. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. So I was fishing an area of Chigborough where you have to fish at a fair distance. So I cast my rods out and then we ordered a Chinese. So I got the bite at about 10 to 8 at night. And then about 20 minutes into it, my phone started ringing, the Chinese guys at the gate with my delivery. So I had to send a couple of guys off to go and get it. And then, the fight, obviously, you can't just stop the fight to go and get your Chinese. The fight went on, for about an hour and a half in total. There's no net in the world that's big enough for this fish. So we had to send out... First of all, I sent out a mate, Alex. He went out there to go and basically use what we call a sling. So that's a safe apparatus that we use to take the fish out of the water. He then went and he turned around and he was like, we're going to need another sling. So then we sent out another friend with a sling, and these slings are 4 foot long each. So then we had the catfish wrapped up in 2 slings, and it was still slightly longer than that. And then we got to a point where we was like, now we've got to try and get it out of the water to photo, to weigh it, because obviously we knew then that it was possibly going to be a UK record.
GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. We've got the Daily Mail now, and Britain's prison population is looking forward to getting their hands on Axel Rudikabana. Sounds like he might wish he'd had the death penalty instead. After all, Steve.
Yep, Axel Rudikabana will have bounty on his head behind bars. Of all the chocolate bars, that's the most racist. And that will be the only joke that's possible to do in the rest of this story. So I thought I'd get one in early because, Southport monster faces being held in isolation and moved around jails to protect him from being targeted by prison napalm. The Daily Mail have interviewed some former prisoners who says he won't be safe. I don't think the Daily Mail are expecting us to be too emotionally moved by the story.
No.
Because, I'm sure we can end up having the debate about death penalty, not death penalty, but don't expect people to care, to connect with this story in this way. Let's chalk it up to yet another reason not to kill kids. There's already loads, is what I would say.
Yeah.
But here's another one to add to your list. There's one particular... Actually, I'm not going to go through the secrets, but we can talk about the prison napalm as well. There was an interview early on this channel where they were saying the recipe, effectively.
They've given the recipe here. I mean, it's not a complicated recipe. We're not going to read it out because we don't want people making prison napalm at home.
True.
But yeah, I mean, they sort of paint the picture that he's going to be a target in prison. But there's also going to be, I should imagine, a lot of inmates that are going to celebrate it because we've got, thousands of Islamists in UK jails who've been arrested for terror offences who will think that what he did was good.
Something I hadn't thought of, and that is horrendous and probably true. So, that is grim.
But it is a different kind of terrorism. Like, one of the reasons the definition needs to be looked at, it should be included in terrorism because terrorism should include anything that causes terror. Yeah. Whereas it kind of, at the moment, seems to be about the end goal. Yeah. There is no goal other than just murder, the killing. Yeah, which is not necessarily.
Well, this is why the internet.
We don't know you about. I mean, I think your average Islamic extremist who wants to massacre lots of Europeans will think that massacring lots of Europeans is a good thing. So, yeah. Horrific case. Anyway, we can't say much more on that. And moving on, we've got Reform topping a national poll for the first time ever, Jonathan.
Yes, it seems that way. So Reform tops national poll for first time in wake of Southport sentencing. So Nigel Farage's party, which has accused Sir Keir Starmer of being part of a cover-up of the truth about these attacks, now leads Labour and the Tories, according to a survey by Find Out Now. This is the first time Reform have topped this poll. They have received 26% of the vote, up by 1 point on the previous week, and Conservatives placed second, 23%, and Labour on net zero, which is what they want. So it does seem that we are moving potentially in a direction to Reform either being serious competition or perhaps even getting elected in.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, though, Steve, we're still about 6 weeks from the collapse of the Labour government. So we can't say for certain that Reform will get in.
No. I mean, it doesn't speak to that at all, does it? It's so long between now and an actual election that happens. Different things will be in play by then. These surveys, they're coming out every week, and we talk about them every week. They never actually tell you anything about the next government, but they do tell you about the mood of the nation right now. Yeah. And that's the interesting thing. That's the important thing. The thing that all parties should be paying attention to. And that's the thing that Labour seems to not be doing. They're still hooked on this winning the election, not the argument, or the other way around. Pay attention to what people think. Yeah. Because coming soon is another popularity contest called an election. So you might want people on your side. instead of just locking up the ones who disagree with you, and I know that's a bit of hyperbole, but at least listen to what people are angered by.
Yeah.
And as you said earlier on, maybe think about doing something that the people actually like.
Absolutely, which is what Reform have been doing, and it seems to be working very well for them. And they're cannibalising votes from not just the Conservatives, who you'd think would be their natural base, disillusioned Conservatives, but also disillusioned Labour voters. And I mean, this looks as though they've built from a standing start. They've built a complete political party and machinery with 185,000 members. So they're going into the next 5 years very well funded, and I don't think the issues that are propelling Reform forward are going to lessen in the next 5 years.
But I would just say, this doesn't include what will happen when Ed Davey gets on some more log flumes. That's an important thing to add in.
Yeah, I think he's run out.
I forgot about them.
He's done all the rides at Centre Parks now. He's run out of things. Now he's just going to have to reuse, footage of him on a zip line. It's not going to work. OK, moving on. We've got The Guardian now, and it looks like the only person more woke than Keir Starmer is Kemi Badenoch, Steve.
Plot twist, Kemi Badenoch co-wrote report saying Prevent scheme could alienate communities. The terrorists, I guess you don't want to upset them somehow. Well, how the turntables have turned, to quote something from the American Office. So it was back in 2015, there was this inquiry she looked into. It comes up with a phrase about I can't forget they are, subject to accusations of police heavy-handedness, which is like, but it's police heavy-handedness towards the people who might be reported to prevent.
Need some handing.
Exactly, that's a really good way of putting it, yeah.
It really reads like a sort of Green Party politician rather than a Tory politician.
So now she's been accused of political opportunism for that read, being a politician. I mean, it's hardly surprising.
She's now accusing Labour of saying the exact same things that she said herself a few years ago.
And even on that, so the X that she said were when Conservatives were trying to toughen up Prevent anti-extremism programmes, Starmer and Cooper were running for office on manifestos worried about Prevent alienating communities. So exactly the same phrase. But also, just let's rewrite that. When you were in power with a majority that could have done something about it, the opposition was opposing you. Stop moaning, but stop being the victim. Oh, no, we didn't do anything when you were in power. You had the chance, you dropped the ball.
Yeah.
And for the Prevent thing, the recent case that we heard about, like there were 15 opportunities missed. He was referred to Prevent 3 times. Not to be too clear, but I think it's like driving. When you hear of someone who passes a driving test on the 11th time, you shouldn't be allowed to drive.
Yeah.
Just because you get clear that... If you've been referred to Prevent a certain number of times, surely there should be some ramping up and some heavy-handedness.
And Steve isn't being sexist there. He didn't say it was a woman.
Did I?
But it was a woman. But, I mean, do you think Kemi's the wrong person to lead the Tories, Jonathan? Because she seems to be dropping a few clangers and she isn't with the public mood, wants somebody maybe a bit more like Robert Jenrick.
A bit more Jenrick-esque. Yeah, I think he perhaps could have been the better choice. But obviously that choice never manifested. You're doing an event with Jenrick soon, aren't you?
Yeah, this Friday.
Ah, you're hosting it?
I'm hosting it, yeah.
Fair enough. If you scan the QR code on screen, you can get tickets.
You can. It's a private dinner.
Oh.
But, OK, let's move on. We've got the Daily Mail now, and Argentina's leader, Javier Milei, has delivered a speech at the World Economic Forum slamming gender ideology and Britain's jailing of its citizens. I'm amazed this guy still gets an invite to the WEF.
I don't think he gets invited. I think he dresses up as a caterer and sneaks in on a trolley and then jumps on stage.
He's already got the Spanish accent.
Yeah, exactly. Funny. OK, what am I doing? The title, the headline, I should say. The anti-woke speech that rocks Davos. Argentina's President Milei slams deeply wrong gender and migration ideology and says UK imprisons citizens for revealing crimes committed by Muslim migrants. That's what he's saying. Argentina's president has used a speech at the WF to slam woke ideology and condemn Western governments, our institutions, and the ideology that has long marched through all of it. So
the stuff that he said would get him 7 years in jail if he said it on British soil.
It would get him on this show. Yeah, I mean, tell us what you really think, Javier. What was he saying? He's saying that, are we imprisoning citizens? I'm not sure that's...
Yes, there are quite a lot of citizens have been imprisoned, John.
Fair enough.
I've noticed in the news that we make you read as part of your job.
Well,
but
yes,
people have been imprisoned for tweets. I mean, obviously, some of the tweets, some of the messages shared on social media would have been misinformation, or would have been inflammatory, or could be seen as inciting violence. But some of them have just been. There's a guy sent down for 10 weeks who just shared some memes of like some Muslim guys getting off a boat. There wasn't even It wasn't even... You couldn't objectively say it was racist or Islamophobic.
I think I've been far too agreeable so far. I'm going to do the thing where I get some hate tweets afterwards. There's a bit of mission creep in what we're talking about. He wasn't saying people are being sent to prison for tweets, which they are. That's wrong. I totally disagree with that. But he's claiming that the UK imprisons citizens for revealing crimes committed by Muslim migrants. Right. Even Grok says that doesn't happen. If ever there's an AI that should have a bias against it. So that his particular accusation... I know I'm meant to, engage with the emotions. I don't have human emotions. I'm all about the facts. So that's the one thing he's definitely getting wrong in there. But if he would have said locking people up for tweets, tick.
Although we'll have to see, when we know more about the motives of the Southport attacker, we'll have to see if some of the people who've been accused of inciting or hatred or whatever actually had the truth more behind them than we originally thought. I guess we won't know until we know the full story. So moving on, we've got the second section coming up. It's a tsunami of child gender transitioning. Also, should we stop slandering men as evil? And we've got the most racist, anti-racist conference so far this year. See you in a moment.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. The next 24 hours sees the most damaging winds from Storm Eowyn move north, turning calmer for many with some frost and ice issues by dawn on Saturday. Here's the position of Eowyn as we go into the evening. It's going to move into Shetland, and the strongest of the winds are going to transfer northwards into central and northern Scotland. Again, the risk of 80, perhaps 90 mile-per-hour wind gusts, but for Northern Ireland, central and southern Scotland, into northern England and North Wales, the worst is now over, and much calmer conditions are expected overnight across many parts, with some rain in the far southeast, but elsewhere clear skies allowing a widespread frost and some icy patches as well, particularly where we've got some rain, sleet and snow showers moving through Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland as well, further snow accumulations over in the hills and some icy patches here and there. But it's a blustery start to the weekend, certainly for Scotland, even if the worst of the winds by this stage are easing. Northern Ireland, much calmer first thing, and for a large part of England and Wales, it's simply blue skies and a fine winter's day is expected for England and Wales, following the blustery and often wet weather that we've seen over the last few days. In fact, in some places, barely a cloud in the sky and light winds. Very pleasant out there, although feeling on the cold side with highs of 7 or 8 Celsius. Feeling particularly cold in the north of Scotland, where those strong winds continue into the afternoon. But for Northern Ireland, we've got cloud and rain moving in, along with gusty winds. Nothing on the scale of Storm Eowyn, of course, but could be some lively weather going through the evening, crossing the country and then clearing into Sunday morning. Sunday morning starts off with the frost across northern and eastern parts of the UK. Further west, we've got the cloud building because the next low comes along, and that's going to bring some wet and windy weather into many western and southern parts of the country by Sunday afternoon. Not on the scale of Eowyn, but not particularly welcome either.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. We've got a couple of your comments from Yorsey. This is gbnews.com/Yorsey. I think that's the address. I'm not actually sure. Leslie Snell says, Leo, yes to the shirt and jacket. No to them both together. OK, it's laundry day, Leslie. Martin Watson says, Ed Davey wore a wetsuit in June. I'm still tasting the sick in my mouth. So that's the commentary on Ed Davey there. We've got the Telegraph now, and the number of children who think they're a different gender has increased by 50 times, which I'm sure is a completely organic, natural occurrence and not at all driven by the weird blue-hair paedophile communists pushing this ideology on them, Jonathan.
Blue-haired paedophile communists.
Yeah.
Great band. Number of children who think they are wrong gender surges 50-fold. So a study by the University of York is the first to give a detailed picture of the scale of gender distress across Europe. So new research has suggested there's been a 50-fold rise. 50-fold in English, Steve?
50 times as much.
Thank you very much.
Understand the word fold?
Yeah.
So from 200 to 10,000. So there were 200 cases in 2011.
That's 2 orders of magnitude.
I've no idea. It's a
you
lot.
Get orders of magnitude, but fold bewilders you.
Absolutely.
It's a lot more. So in a decade, we've gone from 200 to 10,000 cases in a year.
Yeah, and these are clearly vulnerable children. Many of them have...
They might not be vulnerable. They might just be, like, going along with a playground fad.
Well, in that sense, they're vulnerable to this position and this ideology and going down a medical path. I meant vulnerable in that sense. But yeah, a lot of these kids already had, they suffered with self-harming or things like ADHD and autism and depression. So it's often not kids who are in a particularly good way who begin this journey. Now, the catch-22 that they mention here, is it children who are suffering because they have gender dysphoria and it comes out in these other ways, or is it the other way around? So they have these conditions which then they think they can solve by starting the transitioning process. So it's...
so they've got these vulnerable children with anxiety, depression, self-harm. So it's lucky they've got some adults there, some sensible adults to cut off their genitals and pump them full of drugs.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, this part of the story, the idea that you can't unpick which comes first. It's a correlation versus causation thing. And that, for me, was the nice bit, the win of the Cass report, was the idea of not going like, oh, whatever you think is wrong. If you disagree with me, you're wrong. The point is to say, if you've got something where you can't unpick the data, you don't act as if you know what's right.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's the most sensible way of looking at it. If you've got no evidence that taking this course will bring about any benefit, you don't do it.
Yeah.
It's like Occam's razor into medicine. It makes the Hippocratic Oath makes so much sense. I'm also of the opinion that we are going through a weird phase where we're letting society tell us what gender should be. I don't know, when I was growing up, and maybe it's just because I've reached this age where I'm now so old that I don't care, but if ever I do something, it's now in the definition of what men do. Do you know what I mean? Because I am one, so I can dress whatever I want, I can be with whomever I want, doesn't matter what I do. Whereas it seems that a certain generation takes this idea of like, oh, gender says men need to do all this thing, I don't do all of that.
It does seem to be weirdly regressive. I mean, in the 70s, you had David Bowie wearing his long flowing robes and makeup and all the rest of it, and that's, he's a man. Nobody was saying, oh, that means David Bowie's a woman. Now if David Bowie did that, oh, he must be non-binary or transgender or cat-sexual or whatever, a million other things they've got now. It's ridiculous. Men, you don't all have to be Hulk Hogan. Some of you can be David Bowie.
He said he was a star man, which seems, maybe he's trying to not even be human. He was really opting out.
It's suspiciously close to Starmer. We've got The Guardian now, and the Democrats don't know how to deal with a leader who actually acts like a leader, Steve.
Oh, you're being mean. Democrats seek psychologists' advice on Trump's authoritarian behaviour. Bear in mind that this is in The Guardian, who I think gave free, talking therapy to their staff after the result. So, in comparison, this story is basically like, why aren't they doing more, I think. But Democrats on Capitol Hill have consulted psychologists to communicate effectively. And this is where, actually, we shouldn't be dismissing these experts. One of them has written previously in some blogs saying the advice on how to talk to people who disagree with you politically. Don't just argue, ask questions, try to listen, see some value, and all of this is good. Yes, we should be doing this, because the Democrats, the left in general, has a problem with saying, oh, you disagree with me, therefore you are irredeemable.
Yeah.
You are what's the phrase? The deplorable. That's it. Irredeemable, deplorable. Can we please count on your vote in November? Stop doing that. You've got to listen at least.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is, so the Democrats have hired an applied psychologist who specialises in negotiations. That's the good news. The bad news is that the text he's reading them is the art of the deal. So it's actually a bit stressful for them. But
it must be. Well, moving on, we've got the Daily Mail now, and an anti-racism seminar at the University of Queensland managed to be extremely racist against Jews. It's the acceptable racism of the left. Jonathan?
I think David Baddiel's ears just pricked up. So, Queensland University is blasted for perverse and disturbing lecture mocking Dutton's Jew. So, a top university has been blasted after a speaker at an anti-racism conference allegedly mocked Jewish supporters of Peter Dutton, who is the New Zealand opposition at the moment. So, Sarah Schwartz, who is the executive officer of the pro-Palestinian Jewish Council of Australia, put up a caricature of Dutton's Jew, who is basically a modern-day, an Uncle Shlomo, if you will, which is like an Uncle Tom, but for Jews it's an Uncle Shlomo. It's a term I regret inventing just now.
I thought this was an official ADL term. You're making up your own...
Uncle Shlomo.
You're making up your own anti-Semitic...
Oh, he's an Uncle Shlomo. He leaves the window open when the heating... And it's all that stuff.
Makes it better.
Yeah. Not even Jewish. Dutton's Jew. Apparently, he hates the radical left, according to her, and he's a defender of Western civilization. So a Jew... Wait a minute. I'm Dutton's Jew. Oh, no, that's just ridiculous. She's basically...
It's a good thing to be.
Yeah.
And this
reasonable person.
It seems so wild that, nobody on the left ever, stops and thinks, wait a minute, are we the baddies? When they've projected a big anti-Semitic meme up on a screen.
Literally, he's doing that.
It's literally like the template for anti-Semitism.
Don't screenshot that, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't take much to just go through the thought process of like, let's just change the words here. Let's see if we were doing this about another ethnicity. If we made a superhero person, because it was like a superhero design.
What a rubbish superhero. That's what Marvel are putting out now. It's no good. No good at all. Oh, God.
But yeah, it just... I think it speaks to the
Golders Green Goblin. That's a good Jewish super.
We could be here all night.
We can't say a word.
All right, you guys carry on until we get any more.
If I write any, I'll hand them across.
We've got the Daily Mail now with more warnings about the unintended consequences of stigmatising men. Steve.
More Peter Dutton news. Dire warning about Australian men's as he highlights the worrying trend. Fed up. That's the trend, apparently. So the opposition leader says that young men are fed up of being painted as the bad guys in the Me Too world, and also talks about the woke agenda. I'm going to ignore that bit because it's the word and it means whatever you think it means to whoever you are. There's enough to chew your teeth into on this one, because I was rowing with a friend recently about this. Again, it's the same thing about the left picking on you and saying, you're terrible, could we count on your vote in November? It's the same thing of saying, like, men are terrible, and if you dare say, well, some men are terrible. Oh, not all, you're a not all, hashtag not all men are.
Yeah.
And can we, so all of you as a group are absolutely terrible. Can we count on your vote? And yes, some men are terrible. Some Capricorns are terrible. But we don't write us all off. Do you know what I mean? Which includes David Bowie. Interesting callback.
Oh, really?
He was a Capricorn. So yeah, in the interview, he also said how he responds to Mr. Potato Head insults.
Right.
So I no wonder he won me over.
Yeah, I take it that's something you've been called before. I'm not basing that on anything.
Probably online right now.
But it is interesting. I mean, this is a massive misstep that the left have made, in my opinion, because I think we're generally from the sort of first post-racial generation. We're brought up to believe that everybody's equal, should be treated equally, and you should judge people based on the content of their character rather than the colour of their skin. And then the left have come along and said, no, wait a minute, we should judge people based on the colour of their skin, and also all the white people are bad, and all the men are bad, and all these demographic groups are bad. And then the people in those demographic groups have said, wait a minute, is this right? Number one, I don't like you because you just slandered me like that when I was just minding my own business. And number two, I'm going to dig into this data and see if you're right. And they've found some things that actually show that it's not right.
Are you telling me that anti-racism is actually racism?
It's actually anti in the lexicon of the left means lots of. This is a lots of racism conference. Anyway, still to come, the Oscars hit back at Trump. Saudi Arabia gets a new theme tune, it's about time, and someone is fired for being a white man. I'm amazed a white man could get a job in the first place. See you in a couple of minutes.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Unsettled at times across western parts of Europe. This includes Portugal, Spain and parts of northwest France. We're likely to see some heavy rain, also some strong winds at times. Largely settled across Tenerife, but Madeira, parts of Portugal, Spain, northwestern France could see some showers merging into longer spells of rain at times and also some strong winds. As we head further east, largely settled across Rome and also parts of Greece, but a chance we could see some showers here as we head into next week, with the best of the temperatures across Tenerife.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
It's the body image thing that concerns me. It's young girls watching Love Island and really skinny girls and young boys
hit
exactly.
the gym after this. Yeah,
Exactly. I mean, they're seeing perfect bodies on the screen.
You don't need to go in the gym, Maymoon. You look gorgeous as you are, love.
I know. You see, the reason I don't enter anything like that, Kerry, is you know
you're gonna win.
Exactly. And it's not fair. It's not fair, I think, on everybody else being there.
It's not fair.
No.
But Kerry, what do you think about the body image thing? You know, when you talk about your daughter, is that something that you'd worry about, her comparing herself to the likes of what she sees on the screen?
Now, this is where there's a conflict of interest for me because I've been brought up in this industry since I was 17, so it's massively affected me. I mean, when you're put on the front cover of magazines after having a baby with a stretch mark in the circle of shame, you know, it does do a psychological effect on you. I think a lot of celebrities who have been around for so many years as I have been affected by that. But everyone has to bear in mind, I've had my children. I'm in my 40s. I feel I'm entitled to have my tweaks and try and improve on what I think are going down south and health and safety, tripping over any things that I don't want to be tripping over anymore. But I definitely do believe, I mean, majority of the young girls that go on Love Island, they all have the same big lips, the same big eyelashes, all the butt implants, and they're barely in their 20s. You know, it's if you go to the airport now, I remember going to the airport and I looked around and all the girls looked exactly the same.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point.
He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying. That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. We've got the Telegraph now, and a police force is being sneered at for going for a nice walk instead of solving crime, Steve.
Yep, police force branded joke after organising nature walking group. This is Hampshire Constabulary, criticised for initiative viewed as waste of time and money in area replete with unsolved burglaries.
Replete?
Maybe they could do 2 at the same time, though. If their walk went past all the crime scenes where there's still some crimes to do, then you could keep an eye on the situation. People love a crime scene. Midsummer Murders was a great TV show. But
I'll tell you who doesn't like a crime scene, though, the police. The police seem to avoid them at all costs.
I bet they will. Well, they've said, look, no, in their defence, this is Bobby's on the beat. It's a beat surgery on the move. So this means Bobbies are going back on the beat, but not on their own because they're scared. They're going to take... I'm not going out there on my own. There are criminals out there and no one's stopping
So they're going in a group of 20, and instead of going on the beat in a populated area, they're going on in nature, in the woods. I mean,
and the fact that they're bringing a picnic basket has nothing to do with it. Nothing to do whatsoever.
Like cattle rustling.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
It is good news for some people. The criminals who now know that people are out during these hours, if you're going to go and rob someone, now's the time to do it.
They can rob the police. That'll work.
I think so.
OK.
Defund the police, as you always say.
Refund. The taxpayer is what I say. The Daily Mail now, and Hollywood's men are hitting back against Trump the only way they know how, by putting on a dress and some makeup, Jonathan.
Help my uncle get his kids back. Right. Oscars goes to war with Trump by nominating 2 trans dramas for 21 awards after President's Two Genders law was branded shameless by Hollywood wokerati. So it looks like the Oscars has gone to war with Trump by nominating these 2 films that star a transgender actor, oh God,
you've already misgendered him.
well, him. So Carla Sofia Gascon became the first ever transgender star to be put forward for an Oscar, and they're in a musical crime drama that focuses on Mexican drug lord and his transition from male to female. What? He gets rid of his chapo or something like that. I missed it. So this is a film. You like that one? This is a film that tackles themes of gender identity. But let's be clear: if Trump had lost, these films would just be voted for in the exact same way.
Yeah.
There's no difference there. Or if they wouldn't have been, then they're not based on, these votes aren't based on quality of film, they're based on activism, in which case that's bad. That's not what the Oscars should be.
Yeah, I mean, the Oscars is a bit of an irrelevance now anyway, Steve.
Oh, I mean, it should be, and even if it's not, my key to living a Zen life, look how blissed out I am, is to not care about the Oscars. Millionaires patting themselves on the back. I'm not tuning in for any of that. It's the only good thing.
Not unless it's Epstein Island videotape.
Yes, of actual footage. There's a chance the Oscars might not fully go ahead because of, the wildfires, the problem. One of the things that have happened at the Oscars is they won't get the gift bag. And the gift bag's worth like $140,000.
How much adrenochrome is in there?
It's unbelievable.
How many Freddos are in that?
But do you know what one of the things that was in it? A barbecue. Too soon, isn't it?
A barbecue?
You can't give out a barbecue when everyone... Like, they were like...
Also, how do you fit a barbecue in a goodie bag?
It's a big bag. It's $140,000 worth of bag. The bag itself is...
I once got a joke on the Oscars. I was doing some writing for someone. Yeah, it's quite fun. It's about G.I. Jane. It wasn't great, it sort of ended badly.
Well, thanks for waffling there, Jonathan. We've got the show nearly over now, so let's take another quick look at Saturday's front page.
I was doing so well.
The Guardian has Southport killer, police in fight to access web browsing history. The Telegraph has Prime Minister rejects whole life term over Southport. The Mail has Labour taxes leave British firms in dire situation. The Times has Reeves says Britain needs a dose of Trump positivity. Maybe she's going to join Reform. And the Daily Star has JFK, the X-Files. We're going to find out who shot JFK, and that's it for tonight's show. Thank you to my guests, Steve and Jonathan. I'll be back here tomorrow night at 11 p.m. with Lewis Schaefer and Adam Kumas. And if you're watching the 5 a.m. repeat, then stay tuned for breakfast, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Goodbye.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. The next 24 hours sees the most damaging winds from Storm Eowyn move north, turning calmer for many with some frost and ice issues by dawn on Saturday. Here's the position of Eowyn as we go into the evening. It's going to move into Shetland, and the strongest of the winds are going to transfer northwards into central and northern Scotland. Again, the risk of 80, perhaps 90 mile-per-hour wind gusts, but for Northern Ireland, central and southern Scotland, into northern England and North Wales, the worst is now over, and much calmer conditions are expected overnight across many parts, with some rain in the far southeast, but elsewhere clear skies allowing a widespread frost and some icy patches as well, particularly where we've got some rain, sleet and snow showers moving through Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland as well, further snow accumulations over in the hills and some icy patches here and there. But it's a blustery start to the weekend, certainly for Scotland, even if the worst of the winds by this stage are easing. Northern Ireland, much calmer first thing, and for a large part of England and Wales, it's simply blue skies and a fine winter's day is expected for England and Wales, following the blustery and often wet weather that we've seen over the last few days. In fact, in some places, barely a cloud in the sky and light winds Very pleasant out there, although feeling on the cold side with highs of 7 or 8 Celsius. Feeling particularly cold in the north of Scotland, where those strong winds continue into the afternoon. But for Northern Ireland, we've got cloud and rain moving in, along with gusty winds. Nothing on the scale of Storm Éowyn, of course, but could be some lively weather going through the evening, crossing the country and then clearing into Sunday morning. Sunday morning starts off with the frost across northern and eastern parts of the UK. Further west, we've got the cloud building because the next low comes along, and that's going to bring some wet and windy weather into many western and southern parts of the country by Sunday afternoon. Not on the scale of Éowyn, but not particularly welcome either.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. £50,000 in tax-free cash. How would you react if you won?
Oh my God.
That's a big surprise.
Amazing. Just the best feeling ever.
I'm in shock. That is absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
A woman of 53 has believed for 18 months she was in an online relationship with Brad Pitt.
I think we're seeing pictures. So these are the pictures that she received that made her believe that she was in this relationship with Brad Pitt.
And you'll see that some of it is in hospital because the scammer was claiming that he was suffering from cancer. This was playing very much on her emotion. So this is a divorcee who lived in Mauritius. She'd received a £700,000 divorce settlement, or £650,000 divorce settlement, I should say, and £700,000 has been taken from her through this scam.
Yeah.
As she was becoming, every time she became suspicious, the money was taken for payment of charges on gifts that she never received, and then hospital fees. There was lots of emotions being played into there. Now, as somebody, I'm a rom-com writer by trade, so I write romantic fiction. And one of the books I've written has actually been about somebody who did online dating, got herself into a whole heap of trouble. Not quite, she wasn't in a relationship with Brad Pitt, but she met somebody dodgy. So because I've written that book, I've met a lot of people who've come up to me and said, oh, it's happened to me.
It's scary in this digital age, isn't it?
They've lost $700,000, but somebody has tried it on. Somebody my question is, would a man go 18 months in a relationship online without seeing somebody and keep it going? Or is this feeding into this neediness of a particular demographic of a woman who that's better than anything else she got going on in her life, was what was being fed to her over the internet?
And then maybe a little bit of her knew, but she kind of just suppressed it because she
was hoping it was Brad Pitt.
Her daughter apparently for a year was saying, this can't be true, come on, think about it. But she just fell for it. But I just wonder, it's a very sad story. She's obviously now getting a lot of hate and ridicule as well.
She's been on French TV and she's had a huge amount of pushback from it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World, and tonight on the show he's back, Matthew Stadlen. He's going head-to-head with Reem Ibrahim. We're going back in the day with Mike Porky Parry. And behind the bar, on the pole, we've got Kerry Whelpdale. But first, let's go to the news.
A very good evening. It's just gone 7 o'clock. Your top story. Storm Éowyn is sweeping across the UK, bringing record-breaking winds and severe conditions. 1 in 5 flights from airports in the UK and Ireland have been cancelled today, and millions of people have been urged to stay home. Forecasters have flagged a rare red threat to life weather warning. Over 4 million people across Northern Ireland and Scotland received emergency alerts from the Met Office last night with guidance on how to stay safe. More than 240,000 homes and businesses are without power in Northern Ireland, and a record wind speed of 114 miles per hour has been recorded. 20,000 Scottish Power customers across the country are without electricity, and a red danger to life warning for wind has been extended in Scotland, where more than 35,000 properties have lost power. Local authorities have warned commuters to avoid travel at all costs. And the Southport child killer will likely die behind bars after murdering 3 girls at a dance class, but his 52-year sentence has sparked calls for law changes. Axel Rudabakana received one of the highest minimum custody terms on record for the attack in Southport in July last year when he was 17 years old. Alice de Silva Aguirre, B.B. King and Elsie Dot Stankham were all killed, and harrowing details of the attack were heard at Liverpool Crown Court yesterday. However, Southport's Labour MP Patrick Hurley said the sentence was not severe enough, and he asked the Attorney-General to review it as unduly lenient. Due to Rudabakana's age at the time of the attack, he cannot legally receive a whole-life order. The head of the UK's largest police force has welcomed a review of contempt of court laws